Picture this. 381 Navy SEALs cornered in a valley, ammunition depleting, hostiles advancing from all ridges. Headquarters had essentially begun drafting the casualty report. Yet at that critical juncture, when protocol dictated retreat, a single young aviator rejected the notion of failure. This account concerns Captain Delaney Thomas, a 26-year-old A-10 aviator deemed overly sensitive and insufficiently experienced. However, when the valley transformed into a death trap, she established a fresh boundary and ensured every soldier returned home safely. Before we begin, share in the comments your viewing location. I enjoy witnessing our military community distributed worldwide. 381 Navy SEALs were cornered in a valley that had become a killing ground. Helicopters were unable to enter. F-16s were unable to engage at close range. Headquarters discreetly commenced preparing the casualty documentation. A single individual rejected this outcome. Captain Delaney Thomas, 26 years old, A-10 Thunderbolt II aviator of Irish descent, and excessively emotional per the men who relegated her to supply operations. She appeared diminutive alongside her Warthog, yet she understood the aircraft superior to anyone at the installation. The A-10's 30mm GAU-8 possessed surgical precision. In capable hands, it could achieve pinpoint accuracy at 50 meters. They claimed she lacked such capability. At 6:30 that morning, the flight line baked beneath the Afghan sun. Major Sanderson informed her once more she would not be flying. Training exercises with the inexperienced personnel. I require dependable command. Translation: not you. Delaney suppressed her frustration, acknowledged, and continued working. She had already devoted months performing tasks nobody requested. Evening simulations, topographical analysis, ballistic calculations memorized thoroughly, basic Pashto for communication verification, and manual calculations should the targeting system fail. She had charted valleys and mountain peaks and identified areas where aerial support protocols simply collapsed. Nobody desired her evaluation. She persisted regardless. During a briefing, she posed one inquiry. What if this activity isn't preparation, but a snare intended to isolate us where aviation cannot assist? Monitor equipment, Captain, came the response, so she complied. And evenings, she rehearsed the identical scenario repeatedly in a secured simulator she had discreetly learned to operate. Allied forces encircled, missiles in the mountains, extreme proximity throughout. She rehearsed neutralizing the SAMs without abandoning the approach, rehearsed placing a precision line of 30mm between Allied markers and enemy weapons fire, 47 repetitions, each more refined than the previous. At 1:47 that afternoon, the installation alarm interrupted routine operations. In the operations facility, displays filled with the Korengal-type valleys she knew intimately. Communication. SEAL Team 7 and attachments, 381 total, encircled by 800 combatants, 2 verified SAM locations, hostiles on 3 ridgelines, Allied forces in a natural depression. F-16s were 15 to 25 minutes distant. Their parameters: no engagement within 100 meters of Allied markers. The SEALs faced enemies at 50. Sanderson requested alternatives. The room presented doctrine. Delaney presented the A-10. Rejected, stated Sanderson. We're not jeopardizing an unproven aviator. A communication specialist interrupted. SEALs report 30 minutes of ammunition remaining. Time concluded the discussion. Doctrine did not. Delaney departed, waited 30 seconds in the corridor and performed the calculation. 10 minutes from storage to departure, 12 to the valley. That created a razor-thin opportunity. She composed a single-line addendum to the letter she had maintained for months. If you're discovering this, I proceeded because 381 Americans were perishing while bureaucracy debated itself. Then she initiated. Aircraft 297 was already fueled and weaponized, complete drum of 30mm Mavericks, rockets. She operated like programmed memory accelerated, oil, hydraulics, chaff, flares, pod, INS. 90 seconds following, the Hog was operational. On tower communications, she stated nothing. On emergency frequency, she stated everything. Any station, Thunderbolt 7, departing Kandahar, proceeding Korangal, 381 Americans facing imminent annihilation, violating regulations to rescue them. Departure at 2:23 that afternoon. Communication from the valley was deteriorating. The SEAL ground commander, Trident Actual, maintained composure, but the rhythm revealed the situation. Magazines exhausting. F-16 lead reported, visual on objective area. Cannot engage within 100 meters. Excessively close proximity. Delaney transmitted, Trident Actual, Thunderbolt 7, designate your location. Infrared. I'll operate your perimeter. Silence, then optimism. Thunderbolt 7, verify. Close proximity authorization. I'm authorized to preserve Americans. Mark target. As the depression revealed itself beneath her, the scenario was precisely as she had sketched it in red pencil at 3 a.m. 3 ridgelines, intersecting arcs, machine guns eastward, devastating the SEAL location. She eliminated the first weapon with a 2-second burst. Debris erupted. Fire ceased. Bank, climb, second approach. Enemy assault force on the northern slope. 70 meters from Allied forces, brief line across the stone. Movement terminated. No Allied markers in the impact area. Thunderbolt 7 confirmed impacts. Trident Actual reported. Western Ridge, 75 meters. 75 was where jets caused casualties. It was where the Hog excelled. She turned left into a steep angle, aligned targeting just beneath a rock edge, and delivered a half-second burst that created a precise line of impacts between Allied markers and hostile weapons fire. The valley paused. Everyone below, recognizing an A-10 had just placed rounds inside a zone. Nobody approached. Kandahar to Thunderbolt 7, Sanderson's voice interrupted her transmission. Return to installation immediately. You lack authorization. She silenced the command channel and maintained only the close air support and ground frequencies active. She had surpassed permission. Trident Actual, continue target designation. I'm circling east again. She executed the identical strategy she had developed privately. Eliminate the air defenses initially, a Maverick into an active SAM location on the southern ridge, then terrain masking behind a ridge to interrupt the other locations' targeting. Create a corridor, engage the ridgeline positions that anchored the crossfires, not the ones that appeared most threatening on the display. Maintain the gun brief, half-second bursts, no prolonged strings, allow the debris to conceal Allied forces, allow the noise to devastate the assault's morale. Communicate with ground forces. Trident, advance 3 teams westward beneath my fire. Remain below the rock edge. I'm placing rounds uphill preceding you. Within minutes, the communication rhythm transformed. Less desperation, more action. Advancing. Established. Next movement. In the operations facility, radar tracked a solitary A-10 carving aggressive patterns in a valley of hostile indicators. F-16 lead transmitted on an installation channel observing A-10 placing rounds inside 25 meters of Allied forces, either reckless or precise, currently precise. SEAL communications fed into the facility. Thunderbolt 7, that was the weapons, suppressing our eastern position. Cleared to advance. Acknowledged. Transition north. I'll engage the summit in 3-2 gun. Personnel who had ridiculed Delaney became extremely silent. Hayes from the Inspector General's office reminded Sanderson what regulations demanded. Morrison indicated the map and stated what the situation demanded. She's the sole asset capable of this. Assist her or compose the memorial. Sanderson hesitated between career and conscience. Delaney's third approach destroyed the second SAM with a pop-up Maverick from behind terrain. Now helicopters could begin considering. Not yet. Initially, the exit route. She directed Trident Actual onto a seam she had observed in satellite imagery months prior. A shallow depression on the western ridge nobody would identify from overhead unless they had examined the topographic contours manually. Thunderbolt 7. That depression is viable. We can advance through it. Execute. I'll engage the elevated positions 50 meters ahead of you. 30 millimeter impacted like a massive fastener closing across stone. Hostile fire faltered, then stopped. The SEALs advanced by Bounds. For the first occasion all day, Allied indicators moved. A hostile element attempted to collapse the corridor from above, 50, then 40 meters. Delaney steepened the dive, position targeting low, and delivered a 3/4-second burst that shaved the ridge like a carpenter's plane, fragments of stone, then stillness. Effective impact, Trident Actual stated, exhausted but controlled. We're at the opening. 2 additional positions on the distant edge. Designate with marker, she stated. A bright infrared appeared, and she divided it by a body length. No Allied casualties. The corridor maintained. By the occasion the F-16s could legitimately assist on the outer perimeters, Delaney had already neutralized the inner ones. Helicopters activated. A debris trail of ground quick reaction force advanced toward the extraction. The valley transformed from final stand to coordinated withdrawal in under 15 minutes. Back at installation, Sanderson finally decided. He authorized the support resources, tankers, deconfliction, complete intelligence surveillance reconnaissance to Delaney's channel, and a medical evacuation plan aligned to her corridor. Thunderbolt 7, a fresh voice stated, composed, commanding. Kandahar has you on primary frequency. We're supporting you. Delaney didn't respond on the command channel. She didn't need to. The sole voices she required were the ones on the ground. Trident Actual, continue the advance. I'm remaining on your flank. The corridor existed marginally, a carved fastener of silence through a mountain proclaiming war. Delaney remained attached to Trident Actual's flank, transforming the valley into a sequence of micro-engagements she could win in seconds. A pickup truck weapons team appeared high right, too minimal for a Maverick, too brief for rockets. She descended, allowed the targeting to contact the hood, and engaged. The truck collapsed. The gunner disappeared in debris. Western elevation is neutralized, she reported. Advance. On the eastern ridge, an RPG team attempted to employ creative positioning. She anticipated the attack instinctively. Flare, maneuver, half-second line across the muzzle flash. Offset shooter neutralized. The SEALs advanced by bounds, 3 teams simultaneously, then 4, then all of them flowing like water following gravity's path. Every bound, Delaney positioned 30 mm precisely where it rendered the subsequent 10 seconds survivable. Thunderbolt 7, we're at the landing zone depression, Trident Actual stated. Voice steadier now. 2 positions still engaging us. Illuminate 1. An infrared appeared, 1 pulse of gun, and the ridge exhaled. Illuminate 2. The second marker, she removed it from the mountain. Landing zone is functional, Trident Actual verified. Request helicopters. Helicopters inbound. Installation finally provided on close air support channel, now committed. Aircraft 3 minutes distant, 3 minutes was an eternity if the ridge reactivated. Delaney ensured it didn't. The first Chinook navigated its own brownout into the depression. Delaney extended outward to the perimeter, searching anything with visual access into the landing zone. 2 muzzle flashes appeared in a rock formation. She delivered a diagonal burst like a fastener across stone. The flashes ceased. Aircraft 1 departing, embarking first load, second Chinook entering, another debris cloud, another instant where a single unresolved threat could strangle the complete effort. Delaney identified the threat, a PKM team repositioning, attempting to position low. She eliminated it with 3 rounds. Aircraft 2 departing. We're successful. A third aircraft risked it, heavy and determined with weight. Delaney observed its ascent like a protective guardian. A SAM detection tone sounded. Final threat, final option. She was already maneuvering, already low, already behind the ridge when the missile searched for heat and discovered only stone. She emerged, identified the launcher team attempting to relocate, and concluded that chapter with a brief, ruthless engagement. Trident Actual, she stated, voice level. Your final load? On aircraft 3 and 4, we're nearly complete. Nearly was still not complete. A hostile element attempted to sprint the edge in desperation. Feet disturbing shale, rifles elevated. Delaney created a bright, brief line between them and the landing zone, The sprint terminated. Aircraft 4 departing, the Air Mission Commander stated. All embarked. We're departing. The final personnel rear security departed on a small secondary aircraft that shouldn't have risked it. Delaney withheld her fire until they were consumed by the brown cloud, then engaged the ridge again. Not to eliminate so much as to communicate to every observer. Not today, not while I'm present. And then the valley was only wind and debris, and the sound in the headset was breathing. Trident Actual returned on frequency, brief and formal, because certain things demand ceremony. Thunderbolt 7 be informed. 381 souls accounted for, 0 allied killed in action during extraction. We are indebted to you for our lives. Acknowledged, she stated. Nothing additional. She continued flying leisurely S-patterns high and wide until the final helicopter was a dot, and the corridor had sealed itself behind them like a healed wound. On the return, she assessed. Fuel adequate. 1 Maverick remaining. Gun drum depleted, flares low, hands steady, mind clear. She reactivated the command channel. Kandahar, Thunderbolt 7 returning to base. Silence, then Sanderson. Controlled, unreadable. Thunderbolt 7 cleared direct. The runway extended ahead like an inquiry. Landing was smooth, taxi slow, shut down by procedure. She pulled the canopy release and allowed the installation's heat and the crowd's noise to enter. They were standing on their feet on the line, maintainers, ammunition personnel, medics, clerks, aviators, security, the dining facility crew. Not a celebration rally, something more ancient than that. Respect in its unrefined form. Delaney descended. Sanderson waited with the Inspector General and half the senior staff. She stood at attention, prepared for whatever accompanied it. You departed without authorization, Sanderson stated, voice projecting. You violated orders. You engaged at ranges that surpass every comfort zone we've documented. Yes, sir. You also returned home 381 Americans without a single Allied killed during the movement. A prolonged breath. Then, Captain Thomas, you will answer for your decisions. But today the sole thing you'll answer is an inquiry. Can you teach precisely how you accomplished that? Yes, sir. Excellent. We're going to document it so the subsequent aviator doesn't have to learn it at 3 a.m. in a secured simulator. The formalities came regardless. Statements, timelines, inquiries designed to test whether she gambled or calculated. Delaney responded with mathematics, map memory, and methodology, technique over theater. She didn't justify, she explained. The Inspector General listened intently. You violated procedure, Hayes stated finally, but your procedure was superior for the problem you confronted. We will not establish a pattern of rewarding insubordination. We will establish a pattern of correcting doctrine. No medal discussion. Not yet. Just work. 6 months following, the patch on her shoulder stated what she had constructed. Close air support development. She taught from fundamental principles. Read the ground like a document. Every fold a word, every ridge a sentence, every valley a paragraph. If you can't recite it from 12 angles, you don't know it. Gun discipline. Bursts, not streams. Allow debris to be your concealment, not your blindness. Eliminate the correct nodes. The shooter that anchors a crossfire is worth 10 in the open. Communicate with ground forces, not ego. State only what moves a team 10 meters closer to surviving. She demonstrated with clean recordings and problematic ones. She displayed misses as well as hits. She was unsentimental about both. Aviators who used to ridicule took notes. Aviators who used to instruct asked inquiries. The Marines sent their Joint Terminal Attack Controllers. The Army sent their aviation representatives. Special Operations sent the men who had been there to sit in the front row and annotate the moments. An awards formation occurred and concluded. Quiet citations, a ribbon or two, nothing ostentatious. The documentation was careful where it needed to be and exact where it should. The consequence on paper was a reprimand for the unauthorized launch. The consequence in practice was responsibility. Genuine responsibility. Sanderson found her by the simulator facility afterward. I was incorrect about you, he stated without hedging. I perceived risk where there was preparation. That's on me. Delaney didn't gloat. "I was out of boundaries," she stated. "That's on me. Then let's redraw the boundaries where they should have been. It was the closest thing either of them would call peace." Commands that once disregarded her started sending problems, not compliments. A border valley with wind that deceived. She composed a page on crosswind gunnery nobody had requested previously. A city block with Allied forces upstairs and hostiles downstairs. She published a checklist that reduced fratricide risk with 3 communication lines and 2 approach angles. A night extraction where markers failed. She trained a technique to interpret pattern of life through thermal clutter and de-conflict with timing instead of lights. It wasn't heroics. It was craft made public. An analyst placed the number on a wall because certain truths should be physical. 381 extracted. 0 Allied killed in action during movement. Personnel touched it when they walked past. The way you touch a relic without stating a prayer. Delaney avoided that corridor when she could, not from modesty, from accuracy. Numerous days the mathematics would have calculated the other way. Skill mattered. So did timing. So did luck. So did men on the ground who refused to break beneath a sky that had just told them no. Doctrine shifted by increments, the sole way large systems move. Minimum engagement distances became guidelines with context, not commandments without intelligence. Simulator curricula added modules she composed in plain language. A-10 operators learned to count rocks in breaths, not just waypoints in milliseconds. New lieutenants arrived wide-eyed, proud of their patches and eager to be told what mattered. Delaney gave them the identical line every class. Technology is a promise, not a plan. The plan is you. Learn the ground. Learn the gun. Learn the personnel on the channel. Then, when a valley asks an inquiry nobody wants to answer, you'll have one prepared that keeps Americans alive. When she walked the flight line, she still ran her hand along titanium like it was a living thing. She still checked bolts. She still composed notes in margins nobody else would read. Some mornings a letter on her desk had no return address. Inside a coin, a patch, or a single sentence from someone who had been there. You appeared. She kept those in a plain box. She never opened it on days she flew. One evening much later, she taxied back after another training flight and cut the engines. The line crew chief, grease on his sleeve, sun etched into his expression, looked up and stated what needed stating once and never again. "Ma'am, it's good to know if we ever get pinned severely, you've already been where the map stops." Delaney smiled. "The map never stops," she stated. "Sometimes someone just has to draw the next line, and that was the point. Not that one aviator violated regulations. That one aviator proved the rule beneath all the others. When lives hang in the balance, skill married to courage can transform a tomb back into a road home. And that's the heart of this account. Captain Delaney Thomas showed the world that skill and courage can redraw the map when lives are on the line. 381 Americans went home because one aviator refused to quit. If this account moved you, salute in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Warzone for more true military stories of valor and sacrifice. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and never forget those who serve.